detection, but if you have a detection rate is under 30%, you don't have to look at this vendor. Or there are strange approaches to detect malware. We had done a test last week from a vendor, from a very small vendor, which gives a pop-up for each file you execute. So if you want for every PE file, it's senseless because it's only a pop-up engine.
Is it an application whitelisting product or?
Blueprint.
Blueprint.
Was Blueprint Security. Gives a pop-up for each PE file.
So here's a question, and I know we're talking about primarily lab testing, labs that you put together and operate, and you spend a lot of engineering labor, but are we missing maybe the one metric that really matters here, which is actual end user infections in the wild, in the field? I mean, let me tell you where I'm going with this. There are folks out there that make a handy living detecting botnets or detecting other kinds of infections. I'm thinking of the folks like Damballa.
Yep.
Or Rick Wesson, for example, and I saw a report that was partially commissioned by a branch of the U.S. government that's this thick that summarizes the infection rates across all of the Fortune 500 based on what he's been able to observe externally, right? So he doesn't have probes inside the network. He's looking at traffic and trying to figure out who's infected using estimates of their employee base and all that stuff. So not too scientific, but nonetheless, there are plenty of organizations that are trying to that have figured out that there are things happening out there. Mm-hmm. You've also mentioned that there are campaigns against corporations. So to what degree should your methodology incorporate some of the external intelligence that you're getting from some of these outside organizations? Isn't that part of what real effectiveness is?
So you mentioned Damballa, like we work with Gunter, and yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of what they do. To summarize, those of you who haven't heard of Damballa, their approach is that you're going to get owned. It's not a question of whether or not you get owned, it's how quickly you can recover. So they help you identify as quickly as possible and put together a procedure in place for basically backup recovery. And they help you basically isolate your storage, your data from your applications and so on. So a bunch of former ISS guys is sort of the mini version of it. And so if I can just speak for us, I mean, we actually have a lot of the information. Like I've got malware that let's put this way, not detected by 97% of AV products. That's not necessarily what we run every day because I don't necessarily, I mean, where does the bar sit perspective? Like right now, like people are tripping on a 2-foot bar. I don't need to make it 8 feet high. That's coming, but I don't need to make it that hard yet.
Peter?
Sorry, I didn't understand you.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the audience that haven't gotten asked yet? Yeah.
Just in general, outside of the core AV scanning, are there any other features you see across the product stack well suited for endpoint protection?
Well, I think that, I'll separate the marketing from the reality. Endpoint protection, in my view, has to have a host IPS product. There's some very good ones. Like McAfee has, that's why I was in McAfee and Trend. Trend has a good one with the acquisition of 3rd Brigade. McAfee has a good one with, I forget who it was they acquired a number of years ago, but they've got a good one as well. If you're not looking for the exploits to happen in memory, if you're not doing vulnerability protection, then you're not only 1 or 2 steps behind, you're like 10 steps behind the bad guys. Okay, so that's one of the key features from my perspective, and what's been interesting also is that there are folks that have firewalls in their endpoint suite. A large number of those firewalls are far worse than the basic Windows firewall. And when you enable their product and you disable the Windows firewall, you go from having a stateful firewall that locks down most of the ports to a firewall that's not stateful and it opens up most of the ports. I mean, it's fairly, so in terms of worms just running through a network like wildfire, I'd make sure that whatever product you have has a firewall that's stateful. Or make sure you go with the Windows firewall. So those are the two areas on top of just the virus, traditional virus protection. And I'm counting evasion in there with both virus and HIPS because, as I mentioned, the WinZip issue, there's all kinds of silly stuff from an exploit perspective that they're getting through products. But, yeah, so those are, did I answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would always, turn this upside down. I'm really worried about, people turning off the features that are part of the products today. We could obviously be adding more features, but, I've heard quite a few situations where people, turning off, proactive detection, the browser plugins, whatever else is in the system, because, it's using, too much, processing time, or it's too verbose when it comes to network traffic. You have a lot of products that will be the number one consumer of your electricity on your laptop and be the number one consumer of your bandwidth, which is sounds pretty amazing. And in enterprise environments, that sort of makes people saying, okay, we got to start cutting things down, which brings the effectiveness to the product effectively significantly.
Another thing is we had a poll on our homepage. 74% of the answers of the polls, they told us they turn off their antivirus scanner if they get pop-ups. Too much pop-ups. It's the same like the security on the phones. If you get Bluetooth spam, twice, 20, 30 pieces a half hour, anytime you will accept because it's so annoying. So that's a problem that users are switching off their antivirus products. And in the side of the home user, 34% of the home users are turning off their antivirus product while gaming. That's also a big issue because you're vulnerable even if you're gaming or not. Doesn't care what you're doing with your computer. Could be an infection anyway. So it's important that there is a good performance on the scanner, that you can use your workstation in any time, any case what you're doing, and it's not too much annoying because the users are really turning off their computers if there's too much pop-ups, or they cannot do anything in any way they will accept. Do you really want to run this exploit? Yes, I want, because I want to get rid of the pop-up. So it's a difficult approach for the vendors to give not too much pop-ups, but you have to inform the user what happens.
It's a very sort of deep ethical question. I mean, do you really want to inform the end user? Do you believe that the end user is going to do the right thing? Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go.
Users never do the right thing. Question just for everybody here. What should folks here in the audience, or maybe folks that are not in the audience, when they read a press release that announces results from something that you've done, or AV test, or one of these other, or what should they be looking for? How should they read the reports that you issue, or the press releases that they see, or the stories about the tests? What should they be thinking about? What should they be asking that might not be obvious? I mean, you all write these for a living. What should the audience here know that maybe isn't in the report, or how should they be digging deeper?
I can give you an example. There was a press release from a vendor we tested who told we got 100% detection on Windows viruses. That's very good. But Windows viruses are only, I think, at 12 or 13% of our test set, because much more is Trojans. So they are picking out the good things and writing it in the press release. Or another vendor said, we are the best antivirus, the best single-engine antivirus. Not the best antivirus, but it's the best single-engine antivirus. You have to compare the press releases with the written reports, because they're picking out the best things. Or we had another press release we had a scanner with the best performance. Yes, they have been really the best scanner with the best performance. But if you have a detection rate from only 40% and the false positives, more than 500 false positives, you can be very fast. If you scan anything, you are the fastest.